Hi guys, I'm October, but you can call me Toby. Thanks for coming to spend some time with me today. Let's continue on making the Flowy granny square shirt. In the last few videos, I made the side panels, all of the squares, joined them together, took you through some of my planning and how to lay out the pattern. And in today's video, I have to work out how I want to make this center section. It'll have the buttons on it and the collar section. So I'd worked out from measurements that this third square down from the shoulders would be where the bust would sit. So I want the top button to sit at the top of that third square. I also need to work out how I want to do the collar section because I don't want it to be as wide as the button section. And where along here that I would be placing my buttons and which side to do the buttonholes on. Also, if I want to continue on with this raised seam that I have on the rest of the garment, I may need to do this center section as a separate piece because I have no idea how I would do it on the garment and then replicate that raised seam. I also have to think about how sharp of a decrease I want to do from the button section to the collar section, since I want to make this as one piece and not multiple pieces. What I'll try is making a big long chain, so I'll count the stitches along this inner edge and make a chain to match the number of stitches and see how that goes. Now I've got the chain, so I've made the full length chain and then gone back along it with single crochet, but I'm realizing that it is stretching long ways, like down the garment. I do not want the stretch to be in that direction because the garment's quite heavy already, so I'd rather it stretches across the garment rather than down the garment. I'm also realizing that I may have to just make it from the bottom and work my way up, because once I get to this third from the top square, I will have to decrease to make the collar section, and I'm not going to be able to do that if I have it on one big chain. I don't think I'll be able to keep the collar section as fine as I want it. So I'll frog this chain, and I think I'll have to work it up from the bottom of one side. I decided to add a row of single crochet right along the inside edge. Since the two sides of my garment were actually 5 stitches different, I could decrease 5 stitches on one side and deal with that issue before I have to attach the center section. And also doing an extra row of single crochet will give me a nice clean edge to work along, as well as adding in a little bit more of this lovely blue right on the front of the garment. The center section will be done in one color, so it's going to be quite heavy, and having the blue there will break that up a bit more. Now I'm coming to the end of it here, and I'll just tie that off. You can see along here as I'm showing it to you that with my stitches, wherever I hit one of the joins for the granny squares, I just did that as a single crochet, so I went through both of those stitches, and that left me with 130 stitches up each side and 27 across the top if you're counting the corner stitches. So in my planning, you can see this diagram was how I worked out the center section, how high I wanted it to be before I decreased into the collar section, whereabouts did I expect to put the buttons, how wide did I want it to be, and in the notes you can see that I've counted the stitches along the inside of the garment and worked out how long of a chain to make before I realized that making a chain was not going to work for how I wanted to make this. And below that you can see I've jotted down how I did the buttonholes. So here I'm working out the pattern for how to do the buttonholes. And this first sticky note is a continuation of the pattern for the buttonholes. At the bottom of the sticky note, I was working out how to do the decrease as well. You can see that I've put markers in where I expect the buttonholes to go, up on the right side of the garment. And this purple marker at the top here would be the top button, so it's at the top of the third square down from the shoulder. And at this point I thought that would be enough buttons. I had to decide how wide to make this center section, So I grabbed my measuring tape and thinking through, I needed enough space for some overlap and enough space for the buttons to do up between the two center pieces with a nice amount of overlap, but not too much. Now my average square is 12 centimeters wide, so I was thinking 8 centimeters would probably be a good width for this, maybe 9. In retrospect, I think I probably could have done these even wider than I did. Once I had the garment finished, there's a lot of changes I would make to this center section in terms of how I planned it out. The spacing of the buttons, for example, could have been much more precise, and it would have lined up better overall, I think, and just had a better, more finished look. Now I'm going to work up a chain until I reach about 8 centimeters, and when I stretch it out I want it to be a good bit longer, because I know when I single crochet back along it, it is going to shrink. So here it's about 10 centimeters long. Doing a quick count. And then working back along. I ended up with chain of 15. And then when you turn your work, you go into the second stitch back from the hook. So each row after that was 14 single crochet. And then a chain 1, turn your work, 14 single crochet. And I did this all the way up to the base of the first button. I do periodically check this against my measuring tape to make sure that it isn't retracting in further than 8 centimeters. But I stopped doing this after a certain point, and my single crochet does get tighter as I work. My tension gets tighter, and so that's why I think overall I should have made this longer to start with. And I probably also should have started on the other side, which did not have buttonholes, so that I had more time to get into the flow of it and plan them out a bit better. Here I've finished the first buttonhole, and this is my first time attempting buttonholes, so it's a little pattern I made up myself. And at this point I was making sure to keep track of rows and then changes to the rows when the buttonholes happened, so that I could make up a pattern for it and make sure I was doing them the same way each time. So I'll pop the full pattern up for you in just a moment so that you can use that if you'd like to. And I will actually walk through how I did the buttonholes step by step a little bit later. I wanted to make sure that these buttonholes looked consistent, so I think I ended up doing 4 or 5 before I actually did a walkthrough of the pattern for them. These are the buttons that I picked out for this. I do love a good tortoiseshell style button, and I thought these came in packs of 4 and was very surprised that it actually came in a pack of 3. So I ended up having to order more and wait on those to arrive before I could put them on. So they will be added much later on in the video. Here you can see I've worked up 4 buttonholes. And at this point is where I wish I had have planned out the spacing between my buttonholes more concisely. It varies a little bit between buttonholes because I ended up going a bit too much by eye rather than by measurements. And so the final look, the buttons don't look evenly spaced because they're not. So that is definitely one change I would make to this. Here I'll take you through the buttonhole pattern. And this is coming at it from the outside. So we're going to do 9 single crochet. We'll slip stitch to make a nice little divot in the bottom of the buttonhole. And then we'll single crochet 4 to the end, chain 1, and turn our work. You can see the little divot created by the slip stitch there. For the next row we'll single crochet 3, then we will do a triple crochet. This will be right in the stitch right before the slip stitch. We'll chain 1 after that and do another triple into the stitch on the other side of the slip stitch. So this creates the hole for our button. Then just single crochet 8 along, chain 1 and turn your work. Now we're going to single crochet 8 all the way up to that triple. We will do 3 slip stitches, and these will go over the triple crochet, chain 1 space, and triple crochet. What I was trying to do with the slip stitches and these rows was make up the 2 rows that are missing for the triples, and the slip stitches let me just reinforce the top of that buttonhole instead of creating more rows that would buckle upwards around the buttonhole. And I found this worked quite well. After the slip stitches, 3 single crochet, chain 1, turn your work. We'll do 3 single crochet back in, another 3 slip stitches, and this will make our rows even with our triples. So those 3 slip stitches are going across the last 3 slip stitches, and they are a little bit tricky to put in, but it does a great job of reinforcing the top of the buttonhole and keeping these rows more aligned. Now we'll do 8 single crochet, just double checking that I've got still 14 stitches along here. Chain 1 and turn your work, and now you're back to doing 14 single crochet, chain 1, turn your work for your desired length before the next buttonhole begins. So I should have realized at this point how much I'm having to stretch this to have my buttonholes match up with my markers, and that I should have frogged this and restarted. My tension obviously had already gotten tighter at this point, and my buttonholes are not matching up with my markers. So yeah, ideally I would have started over, but I just did not click at this point that was a huge problem. But at this stage, I think I only had a couple buttonholes left, and then I was ready to decrease into the collar. Here you can see my buttonholes are done, and I need to decide how I want to decrease from this point. So I knew I wanted a couple rows more of the 14 single crochet just to give that buttonhole a bit of strength at the top, but then I had to decide how quickly I wanted to decrease. Did I want a really sharp decrease, a really soft one, a really rounded one? But this is the pattern I settled on for my decrease. You can see here how the decrease section looks. It's a nice steady slope. And I decided that my collar section would be 2 single crochet wide. So if you follow this decrease pattern, once you reach row 18, you just continue 2 single crochet, chain 1, 2 single crochet, chain 1, turning your work in between each row, of course. And you do that all the way around your collar section. Mine ended up being, I think, 64 rows of 2 single crochet, chain 1 before I did my increase. And here is the increase. So it is just the reverse of the decrease, of course. And once you reach the bottom of this, you will have 14 single crochet, which you continue doing down the other side of the garment, making sure that the length of your 14 single crochet rows is the same length as the rows on the opposite side with the buttonholes. I did film the increase, but I did not film the decrease. So I'll walk you through step by step the increase, and the decrease is written out for you prior to this. So if you're struggling with that, perhaps go through the increase and it might help. To start our increase, we'll be doing a single crochet and then an increase, chain 1, turn your work. And you want to make sure that your increases are on the inside of this section. We'll then do 3 single crochet, chain 1, turn our work, 2 single crochet, 1 increase, chain 1, turn your work. Again, make sure those increases are towards the inside so that you end up with a more or less straight back edge to attach to the garment, and the slope is on the inside of the collar section and not buckling out towards the outside. For row 4, we'll do 4 single crochet. Then we'll chain 1 and turn our work. Two single crochet, an increase, and then 1 single crochet, chain 1, turn your work. 5 single crochet for this row before we chain 1 and turn our work. Now we'll do 3 single crochet, an increase, one single crochet, chain 1 and turn your work. Row 8 is 6 single crochet before chaining 1 and turning your work. Row 9, 2 single crochet, 1 increase, 1 single crochet, 1 increase, 1 single crochet. Chain 1, turn your work. Row 10 will be 8 single crochet, chain 1 and turn your work. Row 11 will be 3 single crochet, an increase, 1 single crochet, an increase, 2 single crochet. Chain 1, turn your work. Row 12, 10 single crochet, chain 1, turn your work. Row 13, 5 single crochet, one increase, one single crochet, an increase, two single crochet, chain 1, turn your work. Row 14 is 12 single crochet, chain 1, turn your work. Row 15 is 9 single crochet, 1 increase, 2 single crochet, chain 1, turn your work, Row 16 is 13 single crochet before chaining 1 and turning your work. Row 17, we do 10 single crochet, an increase, 2 single crochet, chain 1 and turn your work. This is the increase all finished, and you can see that it does line up with the decrease on the other side quite nicely. The angle of the slope is the exact same, and from here we can do our 14 single crochet, chain 1, turn your work, 14 single crochet, chain 1, turn your work, all the way down. The last bit of planning I'll show you for this center section was on this second sticky note here, where I was keeping track of the number of rows that I was doing for the center section. I finished it once and realized that I could not do my rows one for one with the stitches on the garment because the tension of my single crochet was far too tight. So I had to frog the whole thing and restart it from the top of the last buttonhole. I ended up having to add on more buttonholes and make the whole thing longer to fit better. Here's what the final center section looked like, with a couple of the buttons laid out on top. To give you an idea of just how big this did end up being, since I had to frog it and redo it, it was 107 rows from the bottom to the increase. The increase is 17 rows, and then it's 30 rows to the back of the collar. Back of the collar is 27 rows, another 30 rows down to the decrease. The decrease is 17 rows, and the other side is 107 rows down to the bottom. To finish off the outside edge, I did a row of single crochet completely around the outside, which will make joining it to the garment much easier. And on the inside, I did a row of single crochet completely around the inside edge, and on the way back, I did single crochet to the top of the decrease, at which point for the collar section I did slip stitches, changing back to single crochet to go down the other side of the center section, and then coming back up again, single crochet to the top of the increase, slip stitches around the collar section, and single crochet back down the other side of the center section. The reason I did 3 rows was so that the outside edge looked nice and neat. I didn't really like the appearance of it at 2 rows, so I just did that extra 3rd row to have it sit the way I wanted. And I'm really happy with how it turned out and how it adds that pop of blue in the center as well. I'm out of time for this video today, so I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for joining me. And in the next video, I should be able to get this finished off with adding on the buttons, embroidering the buttonholes, some sleeves, and the hemline. But we are very close to having this finished, which will be lovely. So hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for spending some time with me today. Have a great day. Bye.